Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cleveland Pulse. I believe we are live. Yes, we are. Okay, welcome in. We have some Cavs Summer League Finals, funnily enough. Justin hanging out with me here today. How's it going, boss?
Going well. It's been an exciting summer for the Cavs. Obviously, a lot's been going on: free agency, the draft, and now a little bit of the summer league, which is something that haven't really you don't pay too much attention to in certain years, depending on what your team is doing. If you're a playoff team like Golden State Warriors, you're probably not watching the summer league as a fan, but if you were someone like me who, when the Cavs were doing poorly, the summer league was something to look forward to where they would actually win games or have a chance to win games. And so now we're kind of back into a situation where, we have some interesting prospects to look at. And I think there's been a lot of great stuff, and obviously they played very well. So that's why we're sitting here tonight talking about them before they get into this championship game.
So yeah, we got championship tip-off, finals of the Summer League at 9 p.m. against the Houston Rockets. Interestingly enough. But I think it's interesting. The summer really got kickstarted, and why the Summer League I think is so interesting because of our selection of Amani Bates at 49. I think if we might not have selected Bates at that position, I don't know if there's that much of this amount of buzz around the Summer League. But at the same time, you've had, some standout performers like CPJ, new fan favorite in the house, undrafted talent, along with, a somewhat of a still developing player in Isaiah Mobley. So just as far as, a couple of players that we've seen and just Amani in general, what has kind of stood out to you and what has been the most interesting storyline to follow from your point of view, Justin?
Yeah, so very obviously, like you said, Amani being at the forefront, I think, for people in terms of, and in terms of national attention, he is the forefront of what people are talking about here at Summer League. It's very evident in the, interviews and whatnot that for 49th pick guy, there is a concentration on him. I saw today that, they were asking him who are players that have, taken him under his wing and whatnot. And obviously, the big names that popped out right away are John Morant, Donovan Mitchell, those two, Kevin Durant, I believe. That's the one I stick with a lot. But yeah, and so obviously he's got a lot going on for him, and he, along with Sam Merrill, were the two Cavs players that were nominated to. Can't believe they actually have these, but all summer league teams.
I couldn't believe they had those either.
Sam Merrill made first team. Obviously, he's shooting the. He's a dude who's shooting the shit out of the three ball during the summer league. So obviously he gets a lot of attention there. And then Amani making second team, I think he's just opening a lot of people's eyes, and he's got a lot of competition at his forward position. So I think it's pretty impressive for the 49th pick that he ended up, being there. But I also think that it just shows that, it's very clear and evident that he's got the makings of something special, of something that's better than what his selection might say. And so that's interesting. But to get away from him, I was actually very much looking into, or going to be looking into, Isaiah Mobley, just because I've been on the whole train of,
correct.
He's going to be your hopefully your future back five, probably definitely not. And this is, one of my observations that I've taken from Summer League. He's definitely not going to be your backup five guy. If anything, he's coming in at 4 and maybe like a power 3. But he was definitely someone that I had my eye on. Sam Merrill, for me, after the signings of Strus and Niang, I'm out on Merrill entirely. He's doing great. Good for him. Hopefully a team will pick him up and give him another chance in the league somewhere, but I don't think it's going to work out here. And yeah, on the other end, the Rockets have a plethora of rookies, second-year players and whatnot over there. I think I saw like they have like the MVP of the Summer League over there or something. I'll look that up in a second, but they've got plenty of talent, and I'm sure this will be a really interesting game to watch in terms of you could watch like a really talented group of guys go against, an Amani Bates who could go off and a Sam Merrill who could go off. And, it could be a flashy game. Who knows?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, the summer league's kind of underrated to watch. The games are good, the games are competitive, the guys are out there trying hard because this is your opportunity to show to the coaching staff, to the internal scouts that this is really, who you could be as a player and who you could develop into. But also it's just like actually structured basketball. Like I feel like you see less freelancing and they try to get away with that. And I think that was a valid criticism of Amani in the first game and maybe a little bit of the second game where he was pretty much just trying to play hero ball out there, which I could see how you fall into that trap because, you are a second round pick. You do want to showcase your talents like all those previous things I did state, but they really want to see these guys play within the team aspect. And I'm just been happy from what I've seen from everybody. It's not, it's not do or die. It's not like the end of the story. If a guy's elite in summer league, like, will that translate? That's not always the case. Guy could be totally terrible in summer league, just not be around the right players or right caliber of basketball, teammates. And he can show up in the regular season and be just as good or even better. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic. I am with you for the most part. I like Isaiah Mobley's game. I just don't know if he could give you everything on both ends of the court that we would really be looking for in a backup four, definitely a backup five. But at the same point, I'm not certain if there's anybody on our roster who is, well-rounded at that position. Obviously, it's a backup position, so you're asking for a lot. I agree with you. I'm happy that Sam Merrill is playing good basketball, but I just don't think a 27-year-old in summer league is turning many heads, regardless of how well he's shooting from the 3-point line. Do you want to gloss over it? No, but I think that age is a huge factor here. And, he's been in the league for how many years and he's still playing in the summer league. So that's kind of my thing with him.
You address those issues. You address what he was, brought in for,
correct,
3-point shooting. So
correct. We have talked about this internally.
Guards.
Yeah, you do have too many guards, and why would you play somebody who's just I get it. I get it. We want shooters. I understand that. See a shooter, play a shooter. I've seen this argument, and I understand that. However, I don't think we're at the point organizationally where, like, you could even say that that's, like, there really is no such thing as just, like, a person who's out there, especially way at the end of our bench. Maybe if you're paying a guy to be a spot up shooter, to only shoot threes or to create from the 3-point line, that's one thing. But this guy all the way down at the end of our bench, you have to bring something else to the floor than just shooting. You need some tenacity, the physicality. That's what I think I think Isaiah Mobley's, he's not overly physical, but he's not like a soft player either. So I think this is a summer league where you look for intangibles and you hope to go from there. And we've talked about some of those with the likes of some of these players.
This is my thing with Merrill, and just like, I don't think it's something to hang on to very long, but at the end of the day, like, if you're trying to fill out roster spots, and with this team specifically, like, why would I want Sam Merrill when I could keep Danny Green?
Correct.
Like that's the trade-off. And this is the only thing that
take the playoff experience, take the championship experience. I'm the same way. I agree with you. We're on the same page here.
The only thing you're getting with Merrill is like the idea of like what you wanted from Dylan Windler. And here's where I'm going to stop you on why you shouldn't, repeat what happened with him. It's just the fact that you have two guys that fill better roles or fill a need on this team more than Merrill does at this point on this summer league team. And that's Bates and that's Mobley. And it's just very clear, like, if you're looking to bring guys up from this, like, if you're watching this, and hey, I'm with everyone here. I was also watching for Sharif Hooper. He's one to keep an eye on in terms of like who might, maybe make a jump up. But, Craig Porter obviously is, playing out of his mind. He's a fan favorite right now. Unfortunately, again, too many guards, and he just doesn't fill a role that we need outside of, could he be a better backup point guard than Rubio? Yes, maybe, but we all know that's not how the front office is going to look at it, and it's not how JB is going to look at it and whatnot. So I don't want to play into that. I'm more of just like, hey, we got our shooters. We have our backups at 1 through 3. 3 is a little shaky, but still 1 through 3. And now you got 4 through 5, and you're still saying, hey, who's coming in for Mobley, and then who's coming in for Allen? It's not Robin Lopez when it's 1 through 8, and it's not,
Exactly.
it's not any of these other guys that we have right now. So why not bring Isaiah up, and why not bring Amani up and give them garbage time at the end of games that, we're winning and not, and actually like develop them instead of keeping guys like Windler and Merrill, to the G League and to the, whatever, to practice squads and whatnot, where they don't do anything, and then that's how they are for the rest of their careers. This is what Sam Merrill has been doing for how many years now. So
Right.
I think it's just more important to bring those two up than to, bring a guy like Merrill or Porter up. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think as far as the Cavs fans we interact with, we might be in the minority with that take. But I think it's interesting. It's fun discourse. It's summer league, something to talk about. However, with that being said, a couple people in the chat. Shout out to Ashton. What's up? Long time no see. Haven't done a live in a while. I know we see you on the videos in the comment sections, but shout out to Ashton and Waterboy Football. 9:00. He's asking when the game is. 9:00 Eastern time. So we appreciate you guys for being in here. To the 8-9 people in chat, make sure you hit that like button. Share with your friends. Say, hey, these guys are talking Cavs Summer League. I know a lot of people are covering Cavs Summer League. And shout out to the Cleveland Cavaliers independent journalism community. I think it's a strong group of people who are doing good creative work. I'm not sure if anyone else is live right now like us, but with that being said, share this around. We're going to be on here for another about 15 to 20 minutes talking some Cavs basketball. Interestingly enough, Justin, I think CPJ I think he has the potential to make the most impact on this roster as far as the regular season. I think he's the most dynamic player. I'll even put him over Mobley a little bit, which might be crazy to say because we did bring in Damian Jones from Utah. So you have some sort of a resemblance of a backup big. And I'm sure Mobley might get minutes, but after I'm done with this point, I want to hear who you think maybe makes the most impact. I have a feeling I know your answer, but a couple things for the Merrill crowd, and not to divide it like the Merrill, non-Merrill, whatever. But at the end of the day, all of these guys at the 14th roster spot, if we carry an open spot like we did last year, that's pretty much how we operated. None of these, it's all fun and games in summer league and who has the best performance, who has the best plays. That's fine. I'm not saying don't get excited about that, but at the end of the day, there's a very slim chance that these guys make impact on the roster for a couple of reasons. One, you're the 14th guy on the roster. You're literally going to be the last guy on the bubble. Two, and I know it's a summer league. You're in the finals. Let's have fun. Let's not bring it up, but I like to operate in reality. JB is not looking down the line and bringing Sam Merrill into the game. I'm sorry. He's just not. That's not how he operates. That's not how he is as a coach, unless he drastically changes in the offseason. And another point there, so who are you playing Sam Merrill over? Let's just say you love Sam Merrill, think he should be in the lineup, because I guarantee you a lot of the Sam Merrill crowd are also, the Okoro crowd or people who were, maybe, the Chetty Osman crowd last year, or even some people in the Lamar Stevens camp, like, hey, why weren't these guys playing last year? And now they've moved on from, and now you have somebody who's at the end of the roster who you're going to put playing time over like a 5th overall pick, or somebody who, who's been with the roster a little bit longer. But as far as that goes, Justin, who do you think makes the biggest impact on the roster, and just general thoughts about what I just said?
Again, that's just going back to everything that you just said is going back to the fact of why would I want to give Sam Merrill minutes over Amani Bates, over Isaiah Mobley, over even a Luke Travers,
guys haven't even talked about Luke Travers.
Yeah, again, guys who can play positions of need. I'm a big person of need. If we have holes, we should fill them and not go and get more of what we already have. Yes, correct. I know he's a fantastic shooter. If he's been a fantastic shooter, he would have made a statement. I get it, guys. We all want the next JJ Redick. We've been trying. It has not worked.
Or Kyle Korver.
But guess what? It hasn't worked. We don't need a fourth system. I really don't see the need to talk about Sam Merrill. Honestly, I can't believe that it's still a talking point, because that's just what I thought about it when it was announced that we signed him. I was like, all right.
But that's the same. This is the reality of the business, though. I'm kind of the same way with Sharif Cooper. I want that guy to succeed, But you can't just like put this summer league roster in a box and be like, oh, nothing else has happened besides this. You give Rubio a 3-year contract extension. You have Darius Garland, who's a rising point guard in the league. You sign Ty Jerome, and it turns out Donovan Mitchell could command an offense from the point guard position if push came to shove. Sharif Cooper is not making the roster. Do I think he would work out in the NBA? I'm not certain. Do I think he's a little small for the NBA? Absolutely. Do I think that he has the potential to impact somebody in sort of like a Brandon Goodwin role that we saw 2 years ago? Absolutely. But he's not making the roster. Not all these guys can make the roster. It's the reality of the situation. It kind of sounds like Travers is going to be stuck overseas for one more year minimum. And then we kind of go from there, whether it's Mobley, Bates, whether it's Merrill. From there. Yep. Go ahead.
Nah, I mean, again, for me, obviously for this year, I think there's just going to be so much. And this is something that I think we'll have to keep an eye on. And Jeff, I saw something that I'm going to regret bringing up to you. But for me personally, it's very clear that already Amani is in like the spotlight. And so sure. JB and Kobe, the way that they kind of operated and just how blatant like things are with them and how untransparently transparent they are. I feel like they're going to be like, yeah, we're going to take our time with Amani. We're going to do this and that. He's going to probably spend some time in the G League, blah, 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 blah. And then the next thing I know, he'll be like subbing in regular. He'll be subbing in regular minutes, like 4 minutes though. It'll be like regularly 4, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. I bet you by the end of this year, he could be like up around 8 to 9 averaged minutes, and they would be awful averaged minutes. They'll be so poorly instituted. They'll be in like the midst of a game. It'll be like in the midst of a legitimate game. But who's to say that won't work out for him because he's got the skill set? I think right now the only thing I complain about outside of his, lack of muscle, size, beefiness, whatever, as a tall, lanky guy like him, is just the mental acuity of being mature and knowing his game and knowing the team game.
He's definitely gonna be a liability on defense though to start. As far as like the average defensive player on this team, he's going to be at the bottom of the barrel, and that's fine. I mean, for now, that's fine.
Here's the thing. I've already thought about it, and I know that people will batter me for this, and it's fair. It's a fair point to batter me on. But I've already thought of the idea of a Darius, Donovan, and then insert Strus or Niang, and then Bates as the 4. And Mobley as the 5 lineup. Here's my only thing with, I know everyone's going to say, yeah, small lineup. Amani's going to get bullied in the paint. Here's my thing about Amani getting bullied in the paint. I'd rather him get bullied in the paint where Mobley can help than him get, disgraced on the perimeter and get blown by. And then Mobley has to shoot up and help. And then he has to leave his guy entirely. There's 2 differences to the game of defense, and I think people lose sight of that sometimes. But that's just my 2 cents. That's just something I've thought about. But yeah, I think it's money.
Interesting. 2 more folks in the chat. We have D. Hello, D. How's it going? And then we got Tom K. Summer League showed off Cavs quality depth, not needed any to be stars. I think that there's a lot of good guys to pick from here, and that's why we're having the conversation. Like, you can't keep all these guys because you have so many options, but I don't know if one summer league is going to really like cement us as having good depth in the NBA, because it was not a strong point last year. And even if it was, you never would have seen it with JB, his roster decisions. So I don't know. I think you have a shuffle around of talent, which could create to better depth. I think that's an interesting point, Tom, for sure. But here's my thing, Justin. Let's hop forward a little bit. Let's just say, okay, we showed last year we could kind of be the 4th seed in the East. You could sneak into a home playoff series pretty much with our roster from last year. Let's just say that's pretty much apparent. So let's just take this from a mind of like experimentation. And I'm not a huge fan. If you think your championship window is open, I'm not a huge fan of experimentation for too long. But let's just say you take the first 10 or 15 or 20 regular season games with this roster, who would you rather, let's just say we're Kobe and JB, who would you rather experiment with? Sam Merrill, 27 years old. We know what we're getting with him. You're getting a shooter who could shoot from the 3-point line. That's all fine and dandy. He really doesn't give you anything else. We don't really think he's a great passer. We're not sure about his defense. Maybe he could surprise you in some other aspects of his game. Maybe he's improved. Would you rather experiment with that, or would you rather experiment with 19-year-old Imani Bates? He could shoot over people. He's got the length. He's way more athletic. We know he can create his own shot already. He's probably the best player on the summer league of creating his own shot, maybe outside of CPJ, funnily enough. And that's my second option. Would you rather experiment with Bates or CPJ, or would you rather experiment with Merrill as far as running weird lineups the first 15 to 20 games and saying, hey, if we're 7-8 through 15 games, and we're figuring stuff out, who really cares? Hey, if we're 8-12 through 20 games, and maybe Imani Bates is playing 10 to 15 minutes a game, I don't think this is realistic. But if you were to go down that path, what looks like a better outcome as far as who's going to be able to step up in the playoffs and help us in a short spurt of rotational minutes?
Again, that's one that's like, because again, like you've been saying, we're in summer league. There's not a lot that you can grasp or, be like, hey, on a championship team, on a playoff team, how much are you contributing? I think the point about CPJ, this is like in the thought of you're not giving Rubio minutes. But if you're not giving Rubio minutes, we already knew this because it's LeVert and Okoro who are your guards that are playing, minutes in the playoffs. So for me, realistically, again, Bates is the only, and I'm going to get slammed for saying this again, outside of Niang, he is the only true three we have. Now, I know everyone's going to be like, Strus is a three, he's a wing. Again, I don't know how I'm the old head here, but I'm a firm believer that you got to be like at least 6'7" to be.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Traditional threes,
Paul George,
the best ones are that tall.
Paul George, until I was corrected by a Clippers fan once, I was under the impression that Paul George considered himself a shooting guard all the way until he was a Clipper. Like I remember everyone being like, "Oh, Paul George is an up and coming Kobe Bryant," and I was like, "Oh,
throw the positional numbers out of the equation, though. 2, 3, whatever. Throw that out of here. The game has really changed into: do you have an elite wing? Mm-hmm. Nobody really considers Max Strus as an elite wing, because when I hear wing, I think of slashing to the basket. I think of being able to shoot the 3-point ball. I think of being able to create your own shot. And I think of being able to guard the elite wing on the other team. That's the big thing for me. You're not putting Max Strus on Paul George. You're not putting Max Strus on LeBron James. You're not putting, I don't even really want Max Strus guarding Jimmy Butler at the end of the day. Now you could say, okay, yeah, we have Mobley for the elite wings. Hopefully that Mobley is the elite wing stopper at the end of the day. And maybe that Okoro is the elite wing stopper at the end of the day. But turns out you can't have Okoro and Strus on the court at the same time and achieve your goals on both ends of the ball. I think it's very difficult. You can't have elite shooting out there. If Okoro, you're not going to have a viable threat at every position. If Okoro is out there, and if Strus is out there solo, he's not guarding the elite threes. He's not even guarding a Chris Middleton as far as I'm concerned. And did we pay him to do that? No. And I know we're getting on a Max Strus thing when there's summer league talk to really be having, but you bring up a good point, Justin, where do we have an elite wing? Can Imani Bates become that elite wing? Yeah, I think he's a couple years away, but is it a possibility? I think it could be.
I don't know that the dude's ever going to be in your eyes, your definition of an elite wing is,
sure,
being able to match up against the other teams three or, whatnot. But for me, I think I just continuously, my bread and butter will always be Kevin Durant. He's like the archetype of everything that I talk basketball about, or he's like the godfather. Him and Derrick Rose are like the godfathers of what
Absolutely.
I started basketball out with. And so with me, it's just so clear that Bates's game is so derivative of Kevin Durant, of just pulling up the mid-range jumper.
Yep.
Is honestly the scariest thing to me with him, because I look at him and I think of back to classic Kevin Durant and OKC, where he would just make dudes think he was going to drive to the bucket or take a three all the time. And he'd take one step inside the 3-point line and pull up a three, or I'm sorry, pull up a mid range and just drain the thing, no problem. And I've watched Bates do that now, and I'm like, I see it. It's there. I don't know that it's ready, but it's there.
And who else? The only answer I think is Donovan Mitchell. Sometimes nobody else on the team has an offensive game like that. Darius has not taken one step inside the 3-point line and pulling up. You hope Mobley could get to there. Not there yet. We know Jared Allen's not doing that. I mean, even go through people last year who we might have moved on from. Jetty was not that type of player. I felt like he tried to be unsuccessfully. Is Strus that type of guy? I'm going to have to see him. I'm going to have to see him in some games. I'm not certain with the volume of 3-point shots he actually takes that he does that a whole lot. Does Niang do that? I don't think so. Niang doesn't scare me as like, he's going to put the ball on the hardwood and then make a move and pull up from a elbow or the top of the key. So it's interesting for sure. There's a lot of talent on the summer league team. I think that we've been lucky to watch this squad throughout this 1 or 2 weeks of summer league play. But it is 8:55. Justin, any final thoughts here before we wrap up? I know that ESPN is going to be a little late with the tip off, but we want to make sure that we wrap up here before they get started.
It's going to be interesting. For some reason, I'm going to be honest. Personally, watching these games, I think that this is probably going to be Houston's game to win or to lose.
Okay.
I mean, honestly,
Okay.
I think they have so many great players over there now. Haven't been paying attention to if they're sitting some of them or not, but if they sit some of them, maybe then we have a chance. But I think we have a chance. But I just think right now it's a very one-sided game. But if Amani drops 30, guess whose jersey just dropped in the shop today?
No, him and Strus and Niang.
Yeah, and Jerome as well. So if he drops 30 and we win this game, I'll buy the red Amani jersey.
30 is a lot though. I feel like if he's dropping 30, then we're not playing within the offense. And we'll see. We'll see. I think that's interesting. Okay, so we're already putting you could tell, we've had a long off season, no Cavalier basketball. Justin's like, I need a reason to spend my money. So that is valid. That is fair. I wonder if GV will do anything with Amani. You never know. We'll have to monitor there. But interesting discussion. I feel like, we appreciate everyone coming out and hanging out, between 10 to 15 people in here. Really appreciate it. Everybody who stopped by, able to hit that like button and throw a comment in the chat. I mean, I just don't be my advice for after the summer league. And regardless of what happens tonight, it doesn't really matter what happens tonight. It'll be fun to win. Don't really care if we don't win, but, just go ahead.
We are on Christian Wood and Kelly Oubre, and I believe PJ Tucker after the summer league.
Yeah, we're definitely on free agent watch. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We're almost at 1,100 subs. Shout out to people who got us to 1K, who are here forever and we're for loyals. We are going to be talking about additional free agents because there's still moves to be made. Like Justin said, Christian Wood, PJ Washington, and even Kelly Oubre may be sneaking in there. But what I was going to say, whoever makes the roster and whoever doesn't make maybe none of these guys make the roster. Obviously, you got guys on a two-way, however you want to depict that in your head. But if we add somebody else, you're not getting somebody from the summer league team that isn't on a two-way already on a contract. So just be nice, be kind to each other. If you wanted Merrill or if you wanted, CPJ to make the roster and they don't make it, and other people, let's all be cordial. It's just it's just the summer league. At the end of the day, these are the last guys round on our roster, but I'm glad they've showcased their talents. I'm glad they've had fun in the summer league. Looks like a good group of guys, and I'm excited for, how the culture just has permeated all the way down to the summer league team. That's a good sign to see. Justin, great idea tonight, hopping on here. Appreciate you hopping on, of course. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Shout out Cavs Summer League. Let's go watch the